I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Secretary, for the record, we have Josh Ackerman, Ed Herman, Ed Pianalto, and Jess Gertz in attendance. And Roger's supposed to be on Zoom, but I don't see him yet.
No, not yet.
So we definitely have a quorum. Oh, there it came on. Pete, can you give us a check on Zoom that we can hear you and you hear us?
You're sounding good. This is Pete.
All right, try us one more time, please.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, we had to turn on your mic. All right, thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
And Stacey, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right, so we'll move right on down into new business. And the first item is to discuss and approve the minutes of the May 26th zoning board meeting. Josh, you got anything to say about it?
I do not.
Mr. Herman?
We talked about the May 4th.
Yes, May 4th minutes.
Okay, second paragraph, last sentence. It says Rachel, you would like to see is specified, should it be it? Don't work right there.
Oh. Because I like to get this. Okay,
Where it says C.
yeah, see, it said it is it. Rachel speaking, what did I say?
I don't.
Okay. So it's down under the second bullet. You got it?
Gotcha. Thank you.
What?
Definitely it.
What it is. Anything else, Ed? Yeah. Mr. Pinalco.
Oh, I got a few.
Okay, where?
So May 4th meeting, my term as a zoning board actually ended on April 30th. So May 4th, I was technically not on the board, but I was here to present what the attorney and what we had gotten from the building department. So under one, call to order, in attendance with Vice Chairperson Ed Herman. That should be struck, Vice Chairperson Ed Herman.
Oh, okay.
Because the next line says zoning board member Ed Herman is absent.
I appreciate you guys giving me a thorough eye on this.
The end of that line. Is probably the
That should probably be via. Yes, thank you.
New business, first bullet point, the motion carried, or it should be.
Oh shoot, that's gonna be throughout.
Yeah.
That's a change that I intended to make. I apologize, you guys.
Second bullet point.
And where's that second one, Ed?
Middle of that paragraph, remember?
Oh, yes.
Take the following page. Page 2, the long bullet, the long paragraph. That's right.
Oh.
And then 3 sentences down, the same thing. And the last sentence. Member. English stuff.
I'll do a find and replace on that and
Yeah,
make sure we get them all. Yeah.
And then the second from the last paragraph on that page. This is regarding the storage container tiny home discussion, any clarification from our. And I can. Went out. don't think. On fourth page, the bottom. Motion to approve zoning code adjustment. Be 3-0. The adjournment is 3-0.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your thorough eye on that. I clearly did not go over this one. Just sent her out. Yeah, appreciate you.
Well, I hate that we really didn't have you as a member that day, so I left the 40 zeros in there. I figured if you wanted to correct it, we let you. And
Brought it up a month.
And if Pitkin also, if you hit all of my additions or corrections.
Okay.
So I'm happy with what has been stated.
So I'll make a motion if we'd like.
Roger, are you on there yet?
He is not.
Okay. All right. All right, I will entertain that motion.
So this is zoning board member Ed Pialto. Would like to make it, well, just like it, would like to make a motion that we approve. Okay. As amended.
I hear a second.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, same sign. 4-0. All right, moving on down and discuss with possible action for recommendation to the Board of Trustees on zoning code proposals and revisions. Colorado licensed engineering requirement. And have we heard back from our attorney, Ed, on
I
question?
did. So let me give a little background on this. So the 2018 building code. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I do not know the code 100% like Rachel. 2018 building IRC code says that anything over 200 square feet has to be designed to engineered specification.
It's actually anything with the snow load greater than 70 pounds. Have to be designed.
It doesn't give us square footage.
Oh, okay, does not give us one, but, okay,
Everybody, what the code says.
okay, so. You got that. Anything over. 670.
75 pounds per square foot.
70 or 75?
70.
70.
We're 105 here, so
105 or 110.
105. Yeah.
I thought they raised it to 110, but that's.
And
We don't
Rachel,
check it. It's either way.
It's one,
Either way.
it's much higher than 75.
and but there's no square footage mentioned in that. An outhouse. If it's over 70 pounds.
So that's we were talking about if we want to do a square foot thing. That's a great loophole for people. They want an outhouse, which is still illegal. But to make it as simple as we can and still, have things within code, 200 square feet is what the counties do.
So let me ask this question for clarification for you. Under the 2018 code, if it's under 200 square feet. It does not have to meet the. 105 or 110 pounds per square foot.
I don't believe the code gives a square footage for that.
We like saying basically any structure. We're just trying to set a goalpost at 200. But any structure, according to the code, would fit within the parameters that it has to be built to a standard. Right?
Basically.
Yeah, like even an outhouse, technically by code, you have to get an engineer to
And so, like, keep things simple, we're saying, since the county is saying 200 square feet and less doesn't need a permit. We could just match that.
This says 200 square feet. So the, sorry, the 2018 residential code says anything under 200 square feet is not required a building.
Okay, just a minute. Audience on Zoom, can you hear what we're getting from our building inspector?
It would be helpful if he had a better microphone.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yeah, just take the chair with you. Thank you, Pete.
Can you hear me now?
Pete, did you just hear Levi?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you just start from the beginning again? Yeah.
You don't have to.
Right.
You would.
So basically what we're promoting is, the county says 200 square feet or smaller does not need a permit or engineering or anything. Except for that, verification, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to match, just keep it easy. And 200 square feet is bigger than the previous 120 square feet, I think is what we used to be. And my recommendation is that since the code says that it has to be built engineering, typical engineering standards, which up here to meet our wind loads and our snow loads and all those things, means that if we don't have an engineering stamp on a set of blueprints or a drawing on a napkin, then I have to engineer it, which means that I'm liable if the thing falls down, or the town, ultimately. So, just to make everyone's lives easier, even though I realize the cost is going to be higher, we're gonna if we require engineering for all these buildings and decks and so on and so forth, it would make everyone's lives easier. Or we can charge 10 times the amount for a permit fee, and I can get compensated for my time engineering these people's projects, which also isn't exciting to me. So, that's kind of the code says it has to be built to engineered standards. For the local area.
Okay, there's two pieces to this, and I think both of them were on the agenda. The bullet point. The first one is the requirement of a Colorado licensed engineer requirement. And I think Levi, you had brought up at the board meeting that, I think it was the board meeting, but no, we just talked. With you and I just talked, okay. You had brought up, we had talked about that perhaps we could have an affidavit. If someone does have a licensed engineer that's outside of the state of Colorado, they could sign an affidavit saying that they should draw on their specs or whether it's architectural drawing or engineer, that they designed it to Colorado state. That part I did run through her attorney. He felt that it's very possible that we could do an affidavit, and it would be basically a template affidavit that if someone does use another state licensed engineer, that they're signing saying that they designed it to Colorado specification.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it'd be great. Obviously, make life easier for people. Yeah, if we could just have something verifying that it is indeed engineered to the standards of the state here, then great, come on board. I think it's great.
So let's take that.
No, I'm listening because you have the channel to our attorney.
More so than I'd like. But at least he weighed in for it. So I'm gonna leave it up to the board, or I'm gonna say for the board on that first point. If you're in agreement or not in agreement of doing an affidavit, if it's an engineer that's not from Colorado. And let's do these one. So I don't like to send it back to them.
I'll weigh in on that for myself on the board, and then later I'll weigh in on the other story. Yes, I believe if we can get an affidavit from that engineer that's outside of the boundaries of Colorado, And he says it is by Colorado standards. Let's go with him. Herman,
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Josh,
I would say, I guess legally it doesn't matter if we get an affidavit, because it's covered, but I don't see the pushback of why we can't support local state of Colorado engineers. Like, what is, with all modern technology that we have, with Zoom, Teams, AI, Zoom, video call, anything you can imagine. I could be in Costa Rica and I could contact the Colorado engineer and they could draw up something for me. I just don't understand the pushback, but again, I'm okay if you guys want, if we have the affidavit, then legally we have it, so I'm okay with it.
So I'll give a couple of live examples. What can be difficult here is we have two engineers in Ghost. And those two engineers know the codes here well. They know the solos and all it. But if you try to get those two engineers now to even do a set of plans for a garage, you're probably at least a year out. If they're that busy.
But I mean, technically, you could use somebody from Denver, Lake, I mean, there's huge cities, Grand
could.
Junction, Montrose.
You could, or you could go to someone out on the east side. So you can use it. Their snow load is different than it is here. So they're gonna have to do the same research that any licensed engineer.
No, ultimately, it's up to our building inspector. I came from Florida. I wouldn't want a Florida engineer designing a cabin in Colorado. I'm just making a statement. So as long as they want to sign on the dotted line and say, we're following Colorado standards and legally as a town covered and the building manager covered, it doesn't matter. Okay.
I just want to push back a little bit, if not to me.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys.
No, I know, just to make sure, like,
Get my suggestions, reading.
Yeah.
And what the code says, and we've adopted it. We have to do it.
Yeah.
So we have to do something.
Yeah.
I'm of the philosophy that I want to make things as easy as possible, as legally can, right? So that's all we get your sense of, but then it's not doing.
So another example is, and we've had a couple of people. I think we can see more of this with the wildfire resiliency code, I'm afraid. Several folks in town want to put up metal buildings. And then they go to a company like Mueller, who has their own engineers. Who have buildings, and then they bring the metal in and put it on. If we state only Colorado licensed engineer, you're going to include any outside metal building companies in the state of Colorado. And that's what I think we're seeing more and more of that. And I'm not saying I like metal buildings in the town of Pitkin. The wildfire resiliency code is clearly pushed on us to some extent. So that's why the discussion has come up about limiting gifts to Colorado. Okay.
all right, getting back to the issue and the second,
Are we ready to make a decision on that first part, or recommendation?
yes, this is a recommendation to the trustees.
And so on the first one, we take out the Colorado. But we use an affidavit if the engineer is not from Colorado, that signs, is that what you're telling me?
That's what I said.
Okay.
Okay, we've got one, remove it. Ed Herman,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes, I would just add that the
Yeah,
engineer has to be in the continental United States. We don't want somebody from Europe.
yes, no.
Yes, I say remove.
Okay, so we'll remove the word Colorado in.
United States, like.
Yeah. Territories and
Colorado specification.
Yep, I mean,
Accepted.
that's lawyerese, right? So you'll have to be.
to our layman's terms.
Yeah.
All right. What do you say, Rose?
Accepted engineering practice is a phrase in here, but that's so Colorado accepted engineering practices. Oh. Okay.
That's what I'm.
All right, now your second bullet point from our attorney, please.
So the second bullet point, we discussed, and that's going back and forth, exemption of smaller one-level structures from engineer drawings. So that'd be those, I'm gonna summarize, that'd be those buildings, non-habitable structures that are greater than 200 square feet that are detached from a house. That wouldn't have a requirement for engineer drawings. So what I've received back from Hillary as of late, probably an hour and a half ago, is that her first inclination, and this is what she sent me last week as well, is that it would be ill-advised to do that. However, she's still investigating if it is even a possibility. And that's all the answer I have right now. She recommended that the zoning board talk about it and make a recommendation. If there is a recommendation to not have engineered drawings for structures over 200 that are non-habitable, and maybe identify what those might be. And then in the meantime, between now and our board meeting, we can investigate that and let us know exactly what she. So that's from the legal perspective.
Did you or our attorney mention the word accessory buildings being tied to that?
Well, so accessory buildings would be all the non-habitable, detached garages, sheds, greenhouses, those type of buildings that'd be over 200 square feet. But it would be really any of the accessory building.
Yeah, because we mentioned accessory buildings previously in the code, zoning code. So I like that word in there somewhere. Okay.
Would you have a size limit on that? Or just a minimum?
That is size limit, is that what you said? I think that's what the recommendation needs to be, if that's what you want. I would say be open to any thought.
My feeling is we're going to go with the snow load and the Colorado engineering standards and all this, that the square footage just has no influence on it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just read the code, it doesn't differentiate, right? So, it's pretty clear that it's any structure. So, if you were to make exemptions, I mean, I would assume you're allowed to, right? As a town, right? But I just don't know how you go about that, and then this is just my personal opinion, I feel like you'd be opening up a lot of loopholes that way as well. Which we already have a lot of, so.
One of my backgrounds is when Ramakowski resigned as building inspector. And nobody stepped up and threw the load over onto the zoning board. And that's when I started pushing for engineered plans. Now, I have a storage shed with 10 by 12 with a one slope roof, and so far it's never caved in, but the 2x4 Raptors on that short of distance, 10 foot on 18-inch centers have stood up. But now whether that's a specification from the state, I have no clue. I don't read a 2.5-inch thick book. But in the past, that's the reason we had pushed for going with the International Building Code.
So again, I'll just give another example that I was happy I could be accommodated with the garage that I built. When Tom was our building inspector, I asked him if it needed to be engineered. And he asked me how I was gonna build it, and I said, it's gonna be built 2x6s on 6-unit center. But I'm gonna get engineered roof truss. that will meet the snow limit. And his, at that time, because I know the code was a little bit different at that time, he said, write down exactly how your walls are gonna be built, what the foundation's gonna be, the footer's gonna be, and then where you're gonna get the engineered trusses from. And that worked for me. I felt like it worked for Pitkin. I don't know if we can do that going forward. I don't, that's where I'm stuck. Is everybody says Pitkin is different, and I agree, Pitkin is very different. But it creates some challenges for us, so that's just, I don't even know under the 18 building code if it's still a possibility. The order may come back next week and say that's built to Colorado engineered specs, but we have a requirement of engineering drawings. And
Ultimately, I want to go with what Hillary says. With our suggestion.
So here's the thing, is what you're saying is, it's great, and it makes sense, and we all get that, and I'm talking about it. And none of us wanted to turn any aggressive. And had to turn it to us, but these are the things that we're now having to do, right? It's 18 code. I forgot what's going with that. Oh, yeah, so either way, someone has to check that engineer under the code. So whether it's engineered from a licensed engineer, or we say we don't require that, either way, for me to do my job, follow the code book, I have to engineer. I or check it, and
Yeah.
I do triangles and stuff, and swing a hammer, like. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. It's just it's a lot of work, you know. And we can't just say, yeah, let's get, you know. That's how we've always done it.
And ultimately, when we wind up with this, it needs to be able to treat the oldest timer here that's the same respect and requirements as a brand new person coming into it. We can't have favoritism, stuff like that. So, yes, let's have something we stay with. Any other comments?
I'll just comment on my example with my design. Before I did anything, I got the drawings from the company who built the trusses. And when Tom looked at it, he said, and it showed right on there, it was a company right here. But I don't know that everybody's gonna do what I tried to do on the deal.
No,
So
it's gonna come on the napkin.
Okay, Stacy, do we have 4 people on Zoom?
I'm sorry, do we have
Do
4?
we have 4 people?
Yes, we do.
Does anybody in Zoom land want to make a comment on this? No. It was 3-9. Assuming you're happy with our discussion here, so thank you. Back up here to the table. Just have enough information for you to get to your attorney,
like your recommendation. Whether you want to keep it like it is, it has to, anything above 200 square feet has to be engineered. Or you'd like to see if there could be some exemptions on it. That's all I'm asking for.
This is Josh. As far as my stance is concerned, I think we're in a new era with new building requirements, and I think we should move forward. So does my recommendation, anything over 200 square feet, regardless if it's a habitable building structure, it's going to require plans, engineering plans. I think we should leave it as is.
Let me clarify one thing, because I think the code is engineered or architectural design drawings. It could be either, can't it?
Yeah, it just has to
But
meet
it has to-
accepted practices.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Architect stamps work.
Okay,
Because they have to draw it to the specification.
Right.
So it can be architect or engineer.
And I mean, I'm just Googling, right? So I'm just using AI. I'm not an engineer. But typically it says it costs $1.50 to $3 a square foot to get engineered architecture. Well, if I'm building a 400 square foot building, that's like $1,200.
I would be looking outside of Gunnison for that.
Well, I'm just saying, but we're saying with our last discussion, we're now saying we're gonna accept anybody as long as they have an affidavit. So $1,200 to make sure everybody has a sense of mind and peace of mind to have good standards going forward, to me is not a big ask. Just my personal opinion.
Herman, you have any comments there?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
What if somebody's just putting up a carport? And you decide you wanna overbuild it?
So then you're gonna put pressure on the building inspector that you have overbuilt it enough.
Well, would that be pressure? I mean, you've been doing this for how many years?
But, and that's the thing, it's like, sorry. So that's the thing is, yeah, I can look at it and say, this is how we've always done it, and I know that this meets, engineering standards and practices because I've been building for so long. But that liability now is on me and you guys as a town. So if I sign my name to this piece of paper, I am like verifying that this meets engineering standards, and I'm not an engineer. So, and plus the code says it has to meet it. Therefore, I have to do the homework on all of it. So I that's where I'm stuck, right?
And I think you and Ed are coming up with good examples, but I think you're coming up with examples that I think make sense. But I think what Levi's saying and what I'm saying is that if you take away that exemption, you're creating loopholes. Because then you're gonna have somebody stand on the hill and argue and say, this is solid, I built it solid, and that might not be the case. So that's my only thing to it. It's a.
And it all depends, you're our landowning person to the council and our attorney. My feelings are on it, that no matter what the square footage is, that we do get the certified engineer, those 2 stamps that you're talking about, that's required in the code. Just to keep our nose clean, and like I said earlier, when Rand resigned, I didn't feel like anybody on the board at that time could step in and be our building inspector. And then I think when we finally got Tom twisted into coming up and doing it. And I think it took a lot of pressure off of Tom and maybe made it where he would accept that position. I don't know that a building under 200 foot still needs to stand on the snow load of Pitkin.
I won't argue with that, but I'm not. But I do think that architectural engineer drawings do protect the building inspector in the town. I also think some can be built to specs, but I'm not sure how we get there to make sure that they're built to specs without a lot of legwork.
Yeah, and so like under the 200 square foot mark, like a lot of people bring in prefab, sheds and stuff, and those are pretty standardized for up here, or ish. So I mean, you gotta draw the line somewhere, right? Like you can't say, hey, you're gonna build a 5 square foot flower pot, and you have to get engineering on it.
Well,
Like you have to pick something. Right? And the reason we kind of suggested the 200 square feet is just because that's what he does, and they're a lot stricter than we're on literally everything, and we thought that's pretty reasonable. So,
but how many yard sheds do we have in Pitkin under 200 square feet?
yeah,
Probably 95% of them are the 120 square feet.
right, yeah, there's a lot.
They don't.
They don't
And-
get permits.
If you want my gut reaction, I get very frustrated with the codes that come down and tell me how many R factors got to have of insulation and the drip water sprinkler system and solar ready. I despise Big Brother telling me how I got to lead my life, but we are in that mode and keep our nose and Pitkin clean. I think we need to adhere as close to the standard as possible.
I'm gonna throw another wrinkle in.
Thank you.
You start talking about prefab sheds. So if we buy a shed, someone wants to bring a shed in from say Penrose, a building here in Colorado. I think they've got a lot of sheds in. But it's a 8x20 or 8x30. That's gotta have engineered drawings.
Yeah.
240 square feet.
Yeah.
And I would presume they have engineering on those. What they can do.
They do have engineering on those, and I guarantee you they could provide it for us.
And then that would meet the qualification.
It would, provided it's to the solo. And I don't know if so or not, but I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I'm not looking for the-
Yeah, and this is where we're gonna get into appliance containers too, right?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Levi, would you hand the microphone back to Thomas Kelly, please? Get right in it, Thomas.
You were talking about 200 square feet, but is that gonna be added to it? So that if it's less than 200 square feet, you do not need a permit?
That's the proposal in the zoning code ordinance right now.
That's say.
Yeah,
Some
that-
people would say, oh, no.
Yeah, that's the proposal in the latest 2026 zoning code. Is a building permit under 200 square feet is not required.
But it's more, it's literally square feet. That would be a big yard.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you, Thomas. Anybody else out in Zoom land have any more inputs?
Technical difficulties. So decks are separate under the code, and they will be permitted separately than freestanding structure, right? So
That's the word porch.
yeah,
They still look perfect.
yes, regardless, yeah, they still need, because you're attaching to the structure, and then there's a separate thing.
But the main question, if your porch or deck is greater than 200, you need a permit for it, but you don't need engineered drawings for it.
You still would, yes, under the code,
Oh.
yes.
Because those are attached to the habitable.
Yeah, because I think one about. I live where there's hurricanes, and I tend to.
You're on, Thomas. Did you shut it off?
I tend to overdo it, no matter what, but what many people will probably be doing is their own drawing. And they'll pay a couple $1,000 for the stamp, which, I mean, that's just where we live, that's okay, but. That's what I've done before, so that's all right.
So do you have enough information to take to your attorney? Or you got not happy yet?
I don't know, I just wanted clarification up here from the zoning board. So what you want me to take to the zoning board now is that for anything over 200 square feet, we require the architectural engineer drawings. And so they built the engineered spec, which would include prefab sheds over the 200 square feet or carports, any accessory. That's what you want me. That's the zoning board recommendation to the board of trustees.
Now, when you said any over 200 square feet, what about the 180 square feet?
It's not over 200.
Okay.
201 square.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make sure that you get your report how you want it there. Alicia.
This solution, hey, I'm just curious, if we wanna put a roof over. Does that have to be engineered? Yeah.
And,
Well, maybe they have a lot of snow on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's attached to your home and, yeah. See, that's where I came from when I said I don't like Big Brother telling me how I gotta live. I might want to pay more for heating than somebody else and put less insulation in, but no, I don't have that choice. I'm gonna insulate to their R factor. Or not build. So, you know, like it or not, that's the way Big Brother works. So, all right. I'm happy with the first two bulletproof points. And down to that last one, shipping containers.
Also known as Connex.
Well, Connex is a brand.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah.
Kleenex and tissue are the same.
Yes. Oh my. A whole new can of
Okay,
worms.
so if we go under the 200 square feet, a shipping container that's under 200 square feet would not consider. Although it would require placement of, so that it meets setback.
Yes.
And I don't know. I've looked at the code so many times, but I don't know if we've actually spelled that out in the zoning. I don't know what we have.
In our 26, have you seen it yet, Levi?
The zoning code or the building code?
Our 26 zoning
The
code.
zoning code for setback.
Yeah, my understanding, without it having it in front of me, that a 8 by 20 shipping container only has to meet setbacks. Way we're written right now, I believe that's the way it stands.
Anything less than 200 square feet.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that'd be 160.
Right.
And when we get into these 40 footers, it gives me a problem because I believe the 40 footers are engineered just as strong as the 20 footers. And that kind of frustrates me again. Then who are you going to go to get the verification that it meets the snow load required by Colorado?
So they're probably gonna exceed the snow load, because
I believe it.
they're designed to stack,
Oh, yes, 5, 6 high.
yeah.
More maybe on a ship.
Well, so here's the thing on those things. The weight bearing structure of those is the perimeter and the corners. It's not the center roof. So it is very different. And the county is also trying to figure this out at the same time. So we're not the only ones. And right now, what they're going through is that they're going to recommend, or they're going to require any shipping container that you were to change the structure on, i.e. cut in windows and doors or add anything to it, change any part of it, they're gonna require you do engineering.
So right down to an entry door on the side of it versus the hinging doors on the ends.
Yes, because that changes the entire structure of the.
Even if you had a. So once you modify it, then they're gonna require you to have an engineer come out and verify that it's stable.
You know, so this is one of those loophole things, right, that we have to address. You know, if we say 200 square feet is where we require permits, the 8 by 40 container requires a permit.
Yes.
So I think if you want to start making loopholes, that's up to you guys, but we're gonna stop.
It's good. I mean, if we go to 200, it's 200 square feet and larger requires a building.
Right.
And engineer drawing the building. The question I have is, I know, had some discussion with Levi and Rachel about this. Did you ask the county what they're doing with those over 200 square feet currently?
They're gonna require. Right now, what they're doing is they're going to be requiring a. Administrative review on placement to make sure that they're meeting setbacks and they're not being placed on swampy areas or safe grass areas. We already have that requirement for setbacks, so we're ahead. But then we're back to absolutely any modification triggered the building permit. So they're gonna require like a placement verification. And then, should you want to make any changes that triggers the building permit cost. So they're treated like any other building over 200 square feet. Does that answer the question?
So over 200 square feet, they're requiring engineer drawings to, for them, even if they're not modified?
No, just if they're modified.
Oh.
So if they want to place a shipping container that is not modified, then they're accepting the engineering that it was built at, which is what we've discussed here. They're built to stack on ships. If they're not altered, then they're over engineered for any kind of anything. So, and they're going to let us know when they get their recommendations up for review for the commissioners to look at. So they're still working on it too, but that's where their heads were at when I talked to them.
One of my challenges, in order to get a 40-foot container, you might say, without having problems, I have to have two 20-footers set side by side. In order to get the same square footage of storage. And on the farm in our grain elevator, we probably have 10 or 12, even 53 footers. But the 53, we can't get doors in both ends. And the 40s, we can. And that makes it much more acceptable. So you're saying the 40-footer with doors in both ends would be able to go in just as though it was a 20-footer, but it just has to meet setbacks again, just like the rest of them. I think they're being more lenient than I would expect it to be.
I guess we could decide if you're gonna do a square footage, like. This is where we're kind of. Writing our own policy here on shipping containers. If it's over 200 square feet, it requires a permit. That permit has an accessory building cost and then a square footage cost. So those, like, probably the cleanest way to do it is just to say that storage containers will be treated as any other structure over 200 square feet. I also want to make sure I understand. Even in Pitkin, the accessory building under 200 square feet, after the first one, you do have to get a permit.
Yes.
So when people are stacking them up to get higher square footage, only their first ones
Qualifies.
So I make sure I got this in my mind right. So if we've got a storage container that's greater than 200 square feet, we require a permit. But shipping containers don't require the engineer drawing unless they're modified. Is that?
Yeah, so this is where I'm curious, because where do you draw the line here? Because if you have anything prefab that's over 200 square feet, what do? Right? Like, if you're gonna allow a shipping container that's over 200 square feet without engineering, then why can't you allow a metal building that's freestanding over 200 square feet? I mean, just like that's where like the movements get started, right? Like,
Yeah, and I'm so also trying to see where the. Not that I want to follow the county.
Right.
I'm trying to see what they're doing too. To be able to look at his value. So,
Well, we have enough
that's where I'm talking.
challenges ahead of us in the town of Pitkin.
yeah,
160 acres. There's exceptions to every rule. And that's where variances come in. And an example for me is a walk-in door in the side of a 20-foot container. If it's framed, it's going to have the header and the sides and the foot of the bottom sole, the bottom tread. I believe is going to reinforce the corrugations they cut out. But is an engineer going to go with that? It makes it a lot easier to get in and out of to get a pencil than open up the big hinging doors on the ends. There's a lot of questions that we're going to have in front of us.
And just to add your comment to it, you've got an opening. And how you might frame that opening could be completely different than how someone else framed it. Which could be completely different than how an engineer said it should be maintained the structure on tape.
Well, you can get steel frame doors, can't you, for a Brady hole? We put one in our concrete safe in the elevator office. And you thought it'd be stout. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here that.
You know, this. So this is exactly why I think the loophole thing is dangerous, because there's exceptions to everything. So if you just say, hey, let's limit the square footage we're recommending to require engineering of, then that's it. Everything gets it. Otherwise, we're gonna be playing this game for the next 50 years. So.
So one thought I have on the chicken pecan. I see them as a complete different animal than any other accessory building. So my thoughts are, if it's a shipping container that's over 600, excuse me, 200 square feet. If it's over 200 square feet, it requires a permit. But it doesn't need to show engineer drawings until it's not. That's just. I think they're built way different than any other accessory prefab building.
Yeah, as long as you're clear on it, great.
That's
Make that the rule and all good.
The only question I have is who's gonna do the policing on the modifications? I'm just asking the question, playing devil's advocate.
Your neighbor.
I mean, is that?
And you know, your neighbor's gonna go complain to the mayor.
We're not worried about him. Well. Yes, get back on track. My little note here so far is on the shipping containers up to 200 square feet, no permit but setbacks. Or if modified, then it has to be engineered. And I don't know if anybody in Gunnison samples that have any experience with engineering these containers. Do they? Okay, great.
There's
Now-
several townhomes that have tried against modified. And no, like you're doesn't be engineered.
Well, and Tom and I struggled quite a bit, not struggled. We were impressed with Ethan Berry's 2 containers that he brought in down here. And I'll tell you what, I believe those 2 containers, even though they've been modified, will stand any snow load that any one of our respective buildings in town will. That's my individual feelings, and when he brought it in finished, except for the wiring, and they put the wiring out in site not to what you call conduit. I don't know if I'd want to live in one all of my life, but it's a very secure. It probably withstand more wind damage than a house will. I don't. It's just. I was impressed with those 2 that he put in down there. But if we get them engineered, go with it.
So what are you saying you want for the recommendation? This is what I have, and then tell me if maybe it's not, it's okay, it's not. So anything less than 200 square feet does not require a building permit. Let me rephrase that. Any shipping container less than 200 square feet does not require a building permit, but it must meet setbacks. Any shipping container greater than square feet requires a building permit. We have to put that in there. A building permit does not require engineering. And then any container that's modified. We probably better define modified. Must be engineered.
Modified is any cutting on the sides or the roof or the doors or anything that way. So when you say modify, I don't know that putting a self-tapping screw in it to hold conduit is modifying it. But once you cut a hole in it, that's modified.
So I'm just reading it, I'm just gonna give context to everybody, so I'm reading Connex West. Says permits required, most municipalities require a building permit for shipping containers intended for permanent use. For instance, in most municipalities, containers larger than 200 square feet may need an engineered foundation and building permit. It also talks about setbacks, which we already mentioned, but from what I can read and gather, and unless we want to decide now, it's just occur most over 200 square feet in Texas, all the way to California. If it's over 200 square feet, you require engineered plans
That's not what it said.
to the size.
Engineered foundation.
Engineered foundation.
And that, and I,
So that's even greater, right? Than what we're talking.
well,
about.
that's,
Storage and living. Anything that's intended for permanent use. Because technically, we have a 200 square foot requirement for a workshop. What if I build a workshop? That I don't think doesn't require a permit, right?
The first one.
Yeah, okay.
second related,
Yeah, if you already have an existing yard shed, for example, that's 120 square feet, then yes, it would require a permit.
Okay, but no engineered drawings.
Up to the 300 square feet.
well, no, what you just read there, no engineered drawings for the shipping container. But if it's greater than 200 square feet, you have to have an engineered foundation. So a concrete slab or footers or something.
Permanent shipping containers require a proper foundation that meets local frost step standard. I'm gonna keep going. I'm reading Colorado regulations about it. So,
And we didn't even bring the foundation part up.
so, and this is from Connex's website.
Well, and the difference there too is you're talking about permanent structures. So like, you know, people put them on their property, like the hotel, you know, temporarily, and then they move again, and that's great, and I think that's useful for people too, right? But yeah, if they're permanent structure, that's a different game too.
I've watched I believe it's 40 foot, be moved 3 times in the town of Pitkin, and the door's still open and closed. So it's pretty solid. Strong. So,
So I want to back up to the modified, because we said cutting the sides of the roof. Is that all we want to put for modified? Because modified could be taking the doors off and replacing the doors. I don't think you're changing it structurally with that,
no.
but that could be modified. So I just wanted, are we okay with modified being cutting the sides? And the roof?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I would be just swapping the doors out as it changes the structure of the building.
The integrity of the
Yeah.
ends are still solid.
So, yeah, if you're cutting openings into it. You know, and then also if you're adding electrical and plumbing, yeah, that's a different permit as well. Doing any combination.
Yeah.
Combining containers
Combining,
together.
merging.
Yeah.
And there's an issue there that's might be tough to meet.
Okay, so do you want me to add the greater than 200 square feet? But if it's permanent, require an engineered foundation, or leave that out?
I'm willing to leave it out.
Or
I see
requires,
it.
or we could just put requires a building permit, and then it'll be on Levi. Because I'm reading Jefferson County's website, and Jeff was pretty huge, that's what they require. They say no engineered drawings, but if it's over 200 square feet, they have to have a building. And then it would be up to Levi to that.
Now, and we do
As
it.
long as he feels we feel confident the building inspector.
Well, I think if Jeff goes doing anything over 200 square feet, requires a building, which has to be inspected. So, I mean, I think that's what we've set up.
Yep.
So you scratch the engineered foundation.
I don't want it. What are yours?
So you don't think a permanent structure would need it of that size, like of the Connex? If it was a permanent,
A permanent that's not a shipping container, yes, needs a foundation. A shipping container put on a level pad or even if I'm putting one on, I want to make the floor level. And it's going to support all sides of it.
yeah, I would say, you know, to me, I don't particularly care either way, as long as you're very clear about it's not a residence.
Yes, there you go.
That can get super confusing. You're saying it's permanent structure, or not people are living in it.
Well,
Yeah.
our concrete man, Ethan Beery, put it on foundation and a floor, concrete floor. And he's a concrete man, built many basements and stuff, and it's there to stay. Now, the one, for example, the hotel's been moved 3 times. And it's not a permanent structure. I don't know that other of the shipping containers in town are classified as shipping container as permanent structures.
What's the definition of permanent?
My lifetime or what?
30 years, 20 years, I don't know.
So here's another one. So
This isn't a resident, I guess I'm trying to address it as a permanent, non-habitable container might require an engineered foundation. Once it becomes habitable, then it's, and maybe we need to define that and say that if it's a habitable conversion, then it's got to be put on a permanent foundation.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's where it'd be very important to be clear. That's kind of the point. Yeah.
And Josh, you were fixing to share something.
No, I'll just say this, I'll put it to rest, but Laramie County, which is Fort Collins, they say the permit application. Cargo containers exceeds 120 square feet in floor area require a building permit. 5 copies of plot plan showing the location of the unit, 2 copies of either foundation and an anchorage system designed by engineer. Minimum tie down requirements. And then it says an engineer designed for a foundation and anchorage system of a wall to the foundation must be provided anything over 400 square feet. Exceeds 10 feet in height is used for any purpose other than private storage or is assessed by the public that helps me. So there's standards in Colorado to follow that we can go with. I think the building permit at least is a requirement, should be a requirement. I think they're getting into engineered because they say shipping containers on tornado proof, other instances where they can be picked up, so that might not be our case here, but I'm just saying, that's why they're requiring anchorage and systems into the ground and looking at foundations because they can't move. But anyways.
Yeah, I'd rather be in a container anchored than a trailer house.
Yeah.
It's got its roll bars built in.
Yes.
You have enough, I don't care to require that foundation. Talk about it.
For a non-habitable container.
Right. Yeah, habitable, I think what Ethan Berry went through is quite ethical.
You tell me what the board wants to do.
Mr. Herman,
Let's go with what you just said.
what Jeff just said, and then the non-habitable. Josh,
That sounds good, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna scratch what I have here. It says a non-habitable container greater than 200 square feet must have an engineered foundation. I'll scratch that. But I also did add, if it's habitable. It's a container that's considered permanent and it must have an engineered foundation.
I think
That's
that
what you're saying.
habitable is a key word.
And
Fantastic.
that's what I will take. And any containers modified must be engineered, modified by cutting the sides of the
And how about the building permit?
building. I've got anything greater than 200 square feet requires a building permit.
Yes,
And if they already had an accessory on their property and got a 20 less than 200.
yes.
And that's the way the zoning code was. And
That sounds good to me.
the first one under 200 square feet doesn't require building permit. The second one or more does.
Right. All right, Zoom land. You have anything you want to add or share with us? I appreciate all of you out there listening, keeping us in line and we're happy. All right, back up here at the table. I'm ready for old business and I have nothing listed under old business. Do any of you gentlemen have something you want to add there?
Nope.
And you're happy to go to our attorney now for the trustees so that we can get this zoning code of 2026 wrapped up?
I'm not gonna go to the attorney, I'm gonna go to the trustees and then they might go.
Yeah, well, that's kind of synonymous.
Yeah.
All right.
As the board will. I'm pretty certain we'll follow with the attorney.
At 8:05, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Did Herman, a motion to adjourn the June 6th meeting? I second that. This is Josh.
All right. Is there any more discussion? We'll be here again the second Monday of July. So
You gonna vote on your agenda?
that was my discussion.
Oh, sorry.
All right, all those in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Oh, I said yes. Motion carried. Thank you for coming out. And thanks for the diligence of the building inspector and his right-hand girl.
Yeah, she's a girl. Get older, you like, such it out.
Don't sit down. Yay.